Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify, Apple, or Google, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It supports the podcast and it doesn't cost you anything. Friendly reminder, a great way to support the podcast is to purchase one of the NFTs which are minted on the XRP ledger and which unlocks special benefits and perks for the holders. So be sure to check out the full collection on the Sologenic marketplace. Link will be in the description. This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great crypto exchange that I've been using since 2017. You can buy, sell, trade crypto. They have 10 plus million users, 250 plus cryptocurrencies, and they're available in 150 countries. If you'd like to learn more about Uphold, please visit the link in the description. Well, my friends, it was a big day for Gary Gensler and Congress. Boy, was it full with a lot of theatrics and drama. And I'm going to do my best to share all the highlights here. The TLDR, of course, is that Gary Gensler, after about 2 years or so, is now appearing before the House Financial Committee. Many of the folks who oversee the SEC, and they were waiting to grill Gary Gensler and hold him accountable and ask him the hard questions. And I want to give a big shout out to Patrick McHenry, Congressman Warren Davidson, Congressman Bill Huizenga, Congressman Tom Emmer, for really, really holding Gary Gensler accountable, bringing the heat. I'm going to play some clips for you guys. The hard questions were asked. The questions we wanted them to ask were asked. So really great day. I think Gary was probably really exhausted after this hours long hearing and getting pulverized by these different folks. And one thing I want to highlight, the Shermanator, Brad Sherman, of course, was kissing Gary's ass. It was pretty disgusting. Oh, Gary Gensler, you're doing such a great job. And so on and so forth. One thing I was surprised about is Maxine Waters. She completely flipped. In the past, it looked like she was buddy-buddy with Patrick McHenry. Remember, she was even meeting with Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, she was, really against crypto and supporting Gary Gensler. But it makes sense. She's a Democrat. Gary Gensler is Democrat appointed. And, Elizabeth Warren is in the mix with Brad Sherman. So those folks have an agenda, but I was really surprised by Maxine Waters, but not so much Brad Sherman. We know he's a clown. Remember, he was talking about Mongoose Coin and all these things over the years. Now, first up, Patrick McHenry straight up asked Gary Gensler, is Ethereum a security and commodity? And I love the pressure he puts on him. Let me play the clip for you.
SEC Corporation Finance Director Bill Hinman stated that he believed Ether was not a security. Last month, CFTC Chair Benham expressed his view that Ether is a commodity. The State Attorney General of New York asserted in a court filing last month that Ether is a security. How would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended.
I'm asking you, sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
Without speaking to anyone.
I know you've repeatedly said you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to a second one, the second largest market cap here.
And speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. If there's a group of entrepreneurs in
I'm asking about one.
The public is anticipating a profit based on the...
I'm asking you a specific question, Chair Gensler. I said this in private. This should be no shock to you. I'm asking this question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals...
I'm asking you about the facts and the law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because I'm also...
But you have prejudged on this. You've taken 50 enforcement actions. We're finding out as we go, as you file suit, as people get Wells notices on what is a security in your view, in your agency's view. I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset. What is your view?
And my view is if there's a group of individuals in the middle that the public is...
All right.
So as you can see, Gary Gensler continues to dance around the question, lie. He's, as Tom Emmer puts it, he's not a good faith regulator. Patrick McHenry clearly calls Gary out in his hypocrisy, because Gary keeps saying, "Oh, I can't talk about anyone asset," but it's like, dude, you said Bitcoin, that's an asset in the market, is not a security. Why would you come out and say Bitcoin is not a security and then say, "Oh, I can't talk about specific assets," right? Isn't that asinine? This is a clown we're dealing with Gary Gensler. And he, of course, pressures him. Well, hey, the CFTC saying this, the SEC saying this. What is it? But as usual, Gary is dancing around, acting like a fool. So it started with Patrick McHenry grilling him. In addition, here, I want to highlight that Gary, back in 2014, Eleanor Torretta Fox Business tweeted this. He said that he believes Ethereum is a security. And he said to me, here's a quote, "I don't even think there's much doubt what this was in 2014 when they raised $18 million. And she questioned, what about now, Gary Gensler? Now, the layer to this, my friends, here's what's happening. Gary knows that if he comes out and says Ethereum is not a security, it will go against what Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton did. And we know with the Ripple lawsuit, that layer there, Gary's trying to protect it. He knows if he loses this lawsuit, he's in big trouble. Not to mention the corruption that Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton did with the Ethereum free pass will expose what the SEC was doing at that time. And of course, they don't want the Bill Hinman documents and emails to see the light of day. So I personally believe that's why he's, saying these things and being very passive. But of course, it's not in good faith, right? You're the regulator, you're the SEC, you're the chair. Do your freaking job, you moron. So this is the mess we're dealing with, right? The inconsistency, the nonsense, and of course, the corruption. Now, enter Congressman Tom Emmer. Man, he brought the fire. He came out swinging. I was surprised. He was going at Gary Gensler, tearing him a new one. Here he tweeted out, "Gary Gensler is an incompetent cop on the beat. He's actively putting everyday Americans in harm's way and pushing America's firms into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party." And let me play the clips for you of what Tom Emmer had to say.
Your public statements are not regulations. It's not responsible to expect the American people to assume your statements are a substitute for rules. Do you agree with this statement regarding the digital asset industry? The SEC needs additional congressional authorities to prevent transactions, products, and platforms from falling between the regulatory cracks.
I think that it's a largely non-compliant field. And
Sir, again, I asked you to comply with my questions, and I'm asking you if you agree with that quote. And I'm going to tell you, I'm quoting you from an August 3rd, 2021 article where you, and I believe you told Congressman Hill earlier that you need congressional authority to regulate stablecoins, and stablecoins happen to be a significant percentage of the crypto market. So the question is, when were you telling the truth? To Mr. Hill or to me? Does it concern you, by the way, that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
We're trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws, then they shouldn't be offering their products.
Reclaiming my time. Madam Chair, I would like to enter into the record this Wall Street Journal article from April 14th, 2023, detailing China's ploy to open its banking system to crypto firms in an effort to seize an opportunity created by our hostile regulatory environment, which, Mr. Chair, you're a big part of.
Without objection.
Chair Gensler, FTX was domiciled abroad and so is Binance, yet American consumers still had access to both. You can't really think that pushing this industry abroad is going to protect American consumers when it hasn't several times in the past on your watch. You say the crypto market is rife with non-compliance. However, existing SEC rules make no sense for blockchain-based companies, and following them would actually kill these businesses. Your regulatory style lacks flexibility and nuance, and as a result, you've been an incompetent cop on the beat, doing nothing to protect everyday Americans and pushing American firms into the hands of the CCP. Your intention to work against SEC mission and put American investors in harm's way has been made very apparent, sir. It's been a year and a half since you've appeared before this committee. You need to answer to Congress about the issues that you've had with the SEC staff union, the work environment you've cultivated at the SEC that's led to hemorrhaging of senior staff, the intellectual inconsistency of your regulatory treatment towards Bitcoin spot ETFs, and your politicization of capital formation opportunities through your treatment of certain SPACs. And that's just to name a few. Thank you.
So there you have it. And one thing I really like what Tom Emmer did, he caught Gary slipping because he used Gary's own statements, his public statements against him. So I know some folks are going to say, well, okay, they put the pressure on him. They called out his hypocrisy. They made him look like a fool. Yes, that's part of it, guys, because here's the thing. When you expose Gary like this, he's going to lose supporters, even those in Congress, even the Democrats that support him. He's going to lose them because part of their whole spiel and the setup is they don't want negative public perception because that hurts them at the polls, right? And their ability to raise campaign funds. So this is why we need this type of public discourse and scolding on this corrupt regulator, and exposing all the hypocrisy and lies. So I love Tom Emmer bringing the heat. I love it, love it, love it. This was really great. And Warren Davidson, Congressman Warren Davidson, he came out with some fire himself because he straight up asked, is Ethereum a security? Is XRP a security? So I'm going to play some clips of what he had to say. But Eleanor Tourette, she tweeted out the following: Representative Warren Davidson asked Gensler point blank whether he collaborated with Senator Warren and other Democrats on his answers for the hearing today. Wow. All right. Remember we covered that, guys, that Elizabeth Warren was sharing the questions and answers to him. I'm sure they met and talked about the talking points of the agenda. She probably handed him all the questions and answers, saying, I'm asking because it happened before. Gensler said, I'm speaking on my own behalf. We know that's a lie. Davidson went on to ask whether XRP is a security. Gensler said, we are in court and in active litigation on that right now. Davidson then expounds on his own legislation that would seek to remove Gary Gensler as chairman of the SEC and reconstructing the role completely. So he, of course, wants to get rid of that chairman seat and have an executive director that reports to a board. So let me play the clip for you, what Warren Davidson had to say.
What about Ethereum? Is Ethereum now a security?
We had this.
I heard your exchange. They've been in place since 2015. You say in your statements that there's clarity in the market and the rules are clear. Just come on in. You can't even answer the question. Do you say XRP is a security?
We're in court in active discussions and litigation on that.
You're in litigation because you do say it's a security. But Chairman Gensler, your record of failures to protect investors and abuses of power make it clear that we need to restructure the Securities and Exchange Commission. The failures are many, but let me cite some of the abuses. You average more than 2 rules proposals a month. You provide inappropriately short comment periods. You have unworkable and unlawful ESG disclosure mandates on the market. You have essentially a Hotel California rule for crypto where you can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. You have endless discovery with no resolution and no clarity for the captives in the market. You have unworkable proposals for overhauling equity market structure, a de facto ban on crypto through proposed custody rule. You have high staff turnover, unhappy people leaving your office, and unhappy companies and capital leaving our country. To correct a long series of abuses, I'm introducing legislation that removes the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and replaces the role with an executive director that reports to the board where all authority would reside. Former chairs of the SEC will be ineligible under my proposed bill. And this isn't just my take. It resonates across the political spectrum. The American people want democratic access to capital, retail investor participation. You can't just exclude retail investors from markets and claim it's for their own good.
Wow. Right, guys? Big statements on Warren Davidson. I once again, shout out to all these gentlemen. who did a great job straight up asking Gary, hey, you're the SEC official. You're the chairman. You make the rules. Why can't you answer these simple questions? Is Ethereum a security? Is XRP a security? And it's like Gary continues with his same templated BS nonsense responses, right? And these congressmen were not having it. They would clearly stop him and say, I remember one of them, the other congressman said, I don't want you to preach to me. I want you to answer the questions, because that's what Gary's doing. He just go, well, you know, the SEC, we believe in blah, 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 like this scripted BS, right? So they really, really came after Gary today, guys. Now, and once again, Congressman Warren Davidson, he's introducing a bill that would restructure the SEC. What's the likelihood of this getting passed? I'm not sure, guys. I don't think it's very likely, but it's not. That's not even the point, right? The point is the pressure, the optics, and getting the word out there, right? Going back to my thoughts earlier of this will reduce the support Gary Gensler gets. It exposes his hypocrisy, lies, and so forth. So really great job by Warren Davidson. And another congressman, highlighted something or asked a question to Gary Gensler, and Justin Slaughter, policy director of Paradigm, tweeted out the details. He said, Chair Gensler just testified that he taught multiple courses on crypto, but has never owned or used it. How can you teach a course about something you've never owned or used? So Congressman Steele, he asked him, hey, do you own any crypto? Have you ever owned any crypto? And Gary's like, no. So the folks are like, oh, so this guy hasn't owned any crypto. He hasn't done anything with it, but yet he's teaching people about it and he's trying to regulate it. Get the hell out of here. So Justin continues, much of Chair Gensler's pitch to other policymakers is that he understands crypto because he taught it or taught a course on it, but how was he competent to teach a course about something he's never actually touched? Clarifying point, using crypto is not limited to trade it. If you're writing code, spinning up a node, that's using crypto too. You don't need to be a trading degen to be a crypto native even. So a great question by this congressman, once again, just exposing different layers and breaking down Gary's narratives that he tries to put out there. Now, Congressman Byron Donalds, and many of you may recognize that name because I interviewed him last year. And if you haven't seen that interview, you can, of course, check out the playlist with the politicians, regulators. Link will be in the description. He's out of Florida. Well, he came at Gary Gensler pretty strong as well. So shout out to him. He asked them about climate stuff and ESG and so forth, but I'm going to talk about crypto specifically. He said, on crypto, Congress has never given you a framework for regulating digital assets. So where are you pulling that one from? Because Gary keeps saying, oh, the rules that Congress gave me, kind of talking about the Howey test, but it's like, that's not relevant to digital assets in crypto. Some of it is, but not all of it. We need an updated situation. And then he ended it by taking a jab at Gary regarding Hillary Clinton's campaign. He says, here, on Clinton and Steele dossier, did you facilitate the payment for the Steele dossiers since you were CFO of the Hillary Clinton campaign? Gensler responded that it was not something he was aware of. So they did a great job surgically highlighting breaking down Gary's narratives and highlighting his shortcomings, his conflicts, his lies. And, some of it was just simple questions like, do you own any crypto, Gary? Have you ever used crypto? And he's like, no. So right away breaks his credibility as to, does he really know about crypto? If he hasn't messed around with the code or transferred some crypto, whatever it may be. Right. So great job by these gentlemen. And by the way, I have interviews scheduled with Tom Emmer. I'm in the process of scheduling an interview with Warren Davidson and Bill Huizenga. So I'm going to ask them more details on what the next steps are. What are they going to do here? Keep in mind, it is a process. So here they came out guns blazing, just holding Gary accountable. Let's see how they affect the agency, and that is by rulemaking or controlling the budget and things along those lines. Now, let's move ahead. One thing Gary tried to do today, continuing Elizabeth Warren's narrative that crypto is to blame for the bank runs. So Gary Gensler blames Silicon Valley Bank collapse on crypto. He was highlighting about, the stable coins, circle of stable coin USD, it depegged and whatever. And it's like, really, Gary? This was already dispelled by other committees in Congress that this was due to fractional reserve banking and these banks taking big bets on treasuries and bonds that failed. And then, of course, Elizabeth Warren contributed to working with short sellers, contributed to the bank runs. So clearly, you see, he's closely tied to Elizabeth Warren. And I know we've seen that time and time again, but you're just seeing the same talking points coming from him that were coming from Elizabeth Warren. So, guys, we are in a tough battle right now. And even Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong said Coinbase could move away from the US if no regulatory clarity comes along. Armstrong said anything is on the table in terms of the crypto exchange's plans should greater regulatory clarity not emerge in the US. Now, this is a big statement, and we've seen Ripple, they've made the same statement over the years after being sued by the SEC. This is why I've been calling for years that these crypto companies have to come together and go on the offensive, sue the SEC. And I've said, if you have an entire industry suing the SEC, it's going to tie up the SEC resources because it's coming with pooled resources of lawyers, of cash. It takes money to do this, of course. And does the industry outcry? And they could partner with members of Congress, lobby more members of Congress. They need to do this. And I'm not seeing that coming together, which really sucks. I think it's like divided we fall, united we stand. And I know that's cliche, but if they were to come together and do this, it would really have a bigger effect. But, I understand Brian's situation as CEO, but imagine if Coinbase left, a publicly traded company that the SEC greenlighted to go public. I think it will really, really make the U.S. look bad, and even the SEC. I hope it doesn't come to that. If Coinbase leaves the United States, we're going to be in a world of hurt. Once again, that doesn't mean crypto's dead. Doesn't mean crypto's going away. It's just in the United States. It's going to be really tough. And here, Brian Armstrong tweeted out in the Financial Times newspaper, the actual printed version, Coinbase did an ad titled, "It's time to update the system," and they talk about the need for clarity and for different jurisdictions and so forth to really open up to innovation and all that jazz. Now, Jack Dorsey, or I shouldn't say Jack Dorsey, Jack Mallers, who of course is the founder of Strike, he's tweeted out, "I'm headed to DC to discuss why Lightning Network is the open, inclusive, equitable payment and innovation the world needs. A public good that enables open, fair, innovative payments is as American as it gets. It's time for the U.S. to embrace Bitcoin and Lightning. Let's go." And he's going to be at the inaugural Bitcoin Policy Summit. Now, I know some of you listening may not be fans of the Lightning Network of Bitcoin, but as I said before many times, we have to come together. We all got to work together. Bitcoin maxis, altcoiners, and all that, because we have the same enemy here. And that is Gary Gensler and the SEC and those folks who are anti-crypto. So really great that Jack's going out to do that and highlight the things that they're doing with Lightning and all that. Here's some great news though. Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, officially signs bill protecting the right to mine Bitcoin into law. This is pretty big. And I've been talking about it over the past month. States will have to lead here as the federal government's a mess, right? CFTC, SEC, Operation Choke Point 2.0. So states doing this, if a lot more start doing this, it will put pressure on the federal government. And of course, it'll build more awareness because remember, there's congressmen and women who represent these states. So it's kind of the grassroots movement from the states in which will eventually sway the federal government. But my friends, let me highlight something that I've been talking about for a while. And some people call it a conspiracy theory. Some people are like, oh, I don't believe that, blah, blah, blah. There's no secret agenda here, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no one's making anything up. We're just looking at the facts and saying, hey, this looks like it's headed in this direction. And that is Gary Gensler and the SEC are working for the incumbents. They are going after the startups and the crypto companies who are making billions to roadblock them, kill them, put them out of business. Not to kill crypto, but the goal, the end goal is to allow the incumbents, the big traditional financial players like BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, to come in and take a position in the market, right? We've seen different people talk about this, Tim Draper and Mark Yusko and all these folks, because it has happened in the past. The incumbents don't want to go out. They're going to go down swinging, right? And they're getting disrupted. Well, look at this, my friends. Look at the dichotomy of what's happening with Coinbase and Paxos and Bittrex and all the lawsuits and everything. BNY Mellon expands digital asset team with former Zodia custody CEO talent from BlockFi. Folks, this is a report from today. Why would BNY Mellon, which launched crypto custody last year, be expanding their team when Coinbase is getting Wells notice and Bittrex is getting sued and Gemini is getting sued and all these crypto startups and companies are getting sued? Why did the dichotomy, right? Think about that. Why did Fidelity a month ago launch crypto trading? Why is NASDAQ slated? They confirmed they're going to launch their crypto custody service at the end of Q2. Why did BlackRock last year enter the crypto market, launching a Bitcoin spot trust and partnering with Coinbase? Why did Visa and MasterCard start launching stablecoin integrations and crypto support? And PayPal, offering crypto trading and so forth. Folks, like I've been saying, the incumbents are not scared. They're not worried about Wells notices from Gary Gensler and the SEC. They are coming for the business. And part of that is you get a puppet like Gary Gensler and these other regulators to go out there and go out there and take enforcement actions against these startups, guys. I think it's pretty clear. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not some outlandish thought, right? So let me give you some details. Crypto companies are collapsing. The U.S. regulators are on the hunt for rule breakers. Amid it all, BNY Mellon has been busy building its digital asset division and adding talent from across the crypto ecosystem. Earlier today, America's oldest bank said it had appointed former Zodia Custody Chief Executive Officer Maxime de Gilbion as head of digital asset product. The Standard Chartered veteran spent 17 years working at the investment bank's various units. Here's a quote: Max brings a depth of industry experience creating and running digital asset businesses. Caroline Butler, CEO of Custody and Digital Assets at BNY Mellon, said in a LinkedIn post. His global experience managing roles across both traditional and digital firms uniquely positions him to support our company's ongoing efforts to shape the future of digital finance. The bank, which announced plans to launch a crypto custody product in November, the same month FTX collapsed, also added former BlockFi employee Rachel Willis as chief of staff. Willis spent the past year and a half at the now bankrupt crypto lender, where she was a senior manager on the PR and communications team. Folks, do I even need to say anything more? Just look at what's happening. Once again, the dichotomy, right? I mean, you just look at these two things and you're like, how are they happening in parallel? That's because the incumbents are not afraid. They know crypto's here to stay. They know this is the future. They want the billions of dollars Coinbase and Binance and all these companies are making. And they're not going to go down without a fight. They're not going to get disrupted, right? They're not going to become the blockbusters and let the Netflixes come in and take over. That's what's happening here. The problem is they got the puppets, the regulators at their disposal. If they were using the free market to innovate and adapt and try to compete, that's one thing. But to use the regulators as a tool, that's the crony capitalism that I hate. Now, while all this nonsense is happening in the United States, crypto is expanding globally. Crypto companies can now apply for licenses under the UAE securities regulator. The UAE says that virtual assets may not be traded in the country unless accepted by its federal securities regulator. It says here the United Arab Emirates said Monday, April 17th, that its federal securities regulator will be accepting applications from companies that want to provide crypto services in the country, with the exception of virtual asset companies that are already operating in financial free zones. There are over 40 free zones within the UAE that allow full foreign ownership as well as exemptions from the corporate and income taxes. Last November, the Council of Ministries defined the services that would fall under the license requirement for the securities regulator. This included virtual asset platforms which list, trade, or transfer ownership of virtual assets, as well as a platform operators and services providers. Also listed were distributed ledger technologies, including digital databases that track and share virtual assets, and stored value facilities, meaning non-cash facilities that are purchased by a user as a mean of payments or payment of commodities and services. So folks, other regions and countries are embracing this technology. They're having tax-free zones and welcoming the technology. They're building Web3 investment funds. The regulators are working with the crypto companies. But here in the United States, we're dealing with a scumbag regulator, Gary Gensler. Finally, Nike is releasing its first digital sneaker collection on .swoosh. The virtual sneaker called Air Force One is a play on the brand's iconic Air Force One design. Now, some of you are going to say, I don't care. I don't care for Nike. That's okay. You don't have to like the brand. What's important, though, is that they are using NFTs. So global sportswear brand Nike will soon release its first non-fungible token NFT sneaker collection on its recently launched .swoosh platform. Folks, this is part of the real-world adoption of crypto, using NFTs to tokenize collectibles and artwork and exclusive experiences and benefits, right? Kind of like the NFTs I just launched for my podcast, which offers exclusive benefits and perks to the holders. So the point is they're going to tokenize these different items on blockchains. And we saw, for example, Polygon Matic getting a lot of adoption from Starbucks and different brands, and Nike, no different. They're going to be tokenizing on different blockchains. And if you hold a native token of the respective blockchains that are getting adopted, then that increases the value of your token. So I hope you guys understand what's happening here. You don't have to hold an NFT. You don't have to like NFTs. But I guarantee you one thing, you will eventually be using them, whether you know it or not. And that's what's important for the next 2 billion people who are going to adopt NFTs and crypto, whether they know it or they don't, because it's going to be running behind the system, right? For their movie tickets, their airline tickets and shows and whatever it may be, and collectibles that they get from these experiences, it's going to be tokenized. So they have the digital ownership and proof because of the blockchain. And of course, those said blockchains, they need the native token to grease the wheels for them to function. Those tokens is what you and I are investing in as early adopters and making a bet so that we can make some money, guys. So I hope you understand what's at play here. And I know there's some people, I remember when I announced my NFT collections, they're like, oh, why are you launching an NFT collection? Well, it's the future. I want to reward those who support my brand and the podcast, and they're getting benefits from it. It's going to unlock a lot of different things for them. So guys, that's the news. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Hit the thumbs up button, and I'll talk to you all later.